Today, we're going to do the Lufthansa heist, something that I'm pretty intimately familiar with, only because it was my era. It was around 1978. I had already been a maid guy for about 3 years at that point. I knew Henry Hill, I knew Paulie Vario, I knew Jimmy Burke, and word was on the street. This was a huge heist, the Lufthansa heist. As a matter of fact, up till that time, it was the biggest heist in the history of the United States. They got over $5 million in cash and jewelry at the time. And even though it was kept pretty close to the vest, Jimmy kept it pretty close to the vest, word was out on the street. I mean, obviously it was all over the news, and we know who did it. And I had a little inside information, not really from Jimmy, because he was very tight-lipped about this, not really from Paulie either. But Henry Hill, you know, he had a little bit of a drinking problem. I knew Henry fairly well. We had bounced around a couple of times in different places. And he said a few things that led me to believe that he was on the inside of this whole heist. And Henry and I had known each other before that. He had given me a couple of tips on that whole Boston College scandal when he had a couple of the players working with him. And I made a couple of dollars, put a few bets down myself. So I liked Henry at the time. He was a problem guy, but I liked him at that time. Let me kind of set this up for you. I think what happened, there was an inside guy working at Lufthansa. And by the way, JFK was a target. We had pulled a lot of heists. When I say we, the families, not my crew in particular, but a lot of the families. And Jimmy, I believe, worked at JFK pretty well. They did a couple of hijacks of trucks. I think you saw that in the movie Goodfellas. As a matter of fact, this was all in the movie Goodfellas. They didn't actually show the heist. They showed the planning before a little bit. And then, if you remember the shower scene, when Henry Hill got the call that the heist went off, or he heard it and something, he screamed in the shower. He was happy. But so they did talk about it, obviously, there, and they showed the aftermath, what I'll get into. But this guy, one of the insiders, I believe, told somebody about it, another guy, and that guy happened to owe a big debt to a bookmaker. I think it was like 20 grand. And the bookmaker went to Henry Hill and told him about this Lufthansa deal. That money was coming in from Europe, and sometimes it wasn't immediately shipped out to the bank. Sometimes it stayed there overnight. So there was some tremendous planning and research done with this. Jimmy was the mastermind, no question about it. He's dead now, I can talk about it. And he chose 6 guys that he was going to appoint to go in and actually do the actual heist. And it was planned, I think, at 3 o'clock in the morning. It was just before Christmas, I think mid-December in 1978 when this happened. And 6 guys in ski masks in a van went to the cargo area of Lufthansa, and they went in, loaded guns, and it was heavily staffed at that time. They got all the people that were working there. They tied them up. They had to bypass the alarms. They knew what the system was because they had inside information. They had to bring up somebody to actually open up the safe where the money was kept. I think there was 15 boxes of money, several pounds each. That's $5 million in cash and jewelry. It's pretty heavy. So as you can see, there was a very high level of sophistication involved in the Lufthansa heist. Jimmy Burke was no fool. This was carefully planned out to the T. But you know the aftermath. You watched it in Goodfellas. Jimmy got very paranoid about this. You know Stax, that was a true scene when Tommy DeSimone, Joe Pesci, walked in and he killed Stax because Stax was the guy that drove the van. True story, black guy. He drove the van and he was supposed to get rid of the van. He was actually supposed to drive it to a junkyard that John Gotti owned, and it was supposed to be crushed. But what happened, Stax, for some reason, I don't know if he was drinking a little bit, he went over to his girlfriend's house, he parked the van in front of a fire hydrant and went in to spend the night with his girl, and I think a day or 2 later, the cops saw the van and they confiscated it. They got fingerprints from the van of some of the guys that allegedly went in and did the robbery. And as a result of that, Jimmy ordered Stax to get killed. Tommy DeSimone did pull the trigger on that. You saw the scene when they went into his apartment, and when they went to Stax's apartment and they killed him there. On top of that, about 5 or 6 more guys got murdered. And again, Jimmy, allegedly gave the order. Paulie Vario okayed it because guys were getting loose-lipped about that,